Welcome to the Lead Up Leadership Podcast. Hear from rising leaders and seasoned leaders across various industries to see about their leadership journey and how you can level up your leadership game. Here's your host, Renato G. Lead up!
All right, y'all. We are back with another episode of the Lead Up Leadership Podcast, and I got a special guest with me. Today, we'll be leading up episode 29 with none other than Marcus Strother. Welcome, sir. Very, very excited to have you.
Awesome. I'm excited to be here. I was waiting to hear like the fake fan cheers in the background. I know that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
I just, that's me being a little much. But no, I'm excited to be here, brother. You're doing amazing work. I love, what you're doing with Improve Your Tomorrow. And it's great to be in the space with you. So looking forward to the conversation.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I'm definitely excited because one thing I'm super passionate about, we see the branding on your page, mentorship. I'm gonna get into that, but before we get into that, maybe give us a little background of who you are, maybe where you come from. Who is Marcus Strother?
Yeah, for sure. That's a loaded question. Right?
Yeah, right.
But the amazing thing that I can always lead with is I'm a father and I'm a husband. And those two pieces are my why and get me up every day. Outside of the third piece would be, working with young people and being in the space to be able to do that. So giving a little bit of background about myself, of course, I come from 22 years in public education. Spent 8 years as a classroom teacher, 9 years as a high school administrator, and then last 5 years as coordinator and director of youth development for Sac City Unified School District. So, spent a lot of time. Sometimes it's, you hear people, even on TV shows, I'll see them like talking about, man, I've been doing this for 20 years. And I'm like, yeah, I've been doing this for 20 years too, over 20 years.
Yeah.
So public education, always been in space. My wife and I, though, I will say about 18 years ago, really started diving into mentoring in a very formal way. I was always doing informal mentoring, not really calling it mentoring because I didn't even really, if I'm honest, knew what that was at that time. And still, I think that's part of the work that we're doing with Mentor California, because I think young people still don't really know or recognize what mentoring is and how it could be used. But we started our own programs about 18 years ago with young men. Mm-hmm. Of course, my young ladies in my school at the time was like, Strother, that's not cool.
All right.
What about us?
We get that too.
Right. So picked up, a year later and started our girls group. So we had Brother to Brother was our male group, Sister Circle is our girls group. And then probably about 5 years into that, dove into the leadership initiative, which is LEAP, Leaders Empowered to Achieve Anything Possible, which just brought, a whole different scale of young people to the space. And between the three programs, we were serving between 400 and 500 young people every year. And I was just really excited about that and always knew that mentoring was dear to my heart and just was a different way for me to be in space outside of being the educator in the classroom. Mm-hmm. And after 22 years, was really trying to figure out, one, how can I not be that old guy that I knew I had around 20 years ago, who I felt like, would get all the grants and, get all the accolades. But at the end of the day, they were hiring me, the young guy, to come do all the work. And I'm like, yo, can you just tell me how to do this? How do I get grants? What does that look like? And it wasn't until I met my mentor, Dr. Tyrone Bledsoe, who was the one who helped me, get my first mentoring program off the ground. And
awesome.
It wasn't until I met him that I got somebody who really wrapped their arms around me and what I was trying to do. And I said, man, when I get to a place where, I feel like, not that I've done all that I could do in public education, but it's time for me to maybe step away from that and come back a different way and support programs, support, young cats like yourself who are wanting to do this work a different way. How can I help you get to a place where you can create sustainable situations so that our young people have what they need? And, it lent itself into this great affiliate, Mentor California, which is an affiliate of the national office out of Boston, Mentor the national partnership. And here we are. So, that's a little bit, of course, like I said, I'm a father to three amazing young people. Daughter is a sophomore at Arizona State University, and our boys are sophomores in high school. And my wife is a high school counselor.
That's right. Yeah.
So education is our world. This is what we do.
Yeah, man. First, much respect in terms of the education career. I know my educators are saying much respect because it is not an easy task, especially for the work that we try to approach it right in terms of who we serve in terms of our communities. But I definitely want to touch on mentorship, man. I'm curious, how do you define mentorship, and why is it? And you kind of alluded to a little bit with mentioning your mentor, but why is it so important to you, and why should it be considered important for other folks in the community as well?
Yeah, so I will, as they say, I'll drop some gems that make it real simple for me. Mentoring is a basic human right. We are all products of mentorship, right? Like, I don't know that there is anybody that would be able to say to me, no one has helped them in some way get to where they are.
Right.
Now there's different levels to help, and some get more help than others, but I think all of us can look back and think of at least one person. And the research shows one caring adult makes a ton of difference for a young person growing up and being in a space where there's a culture of thriving. So, for me, mentoring, I equate it to teaching, because I think teachers, in many ways are mentors, especially if they're doing the job the right way. And we could, that's a whole nother conversation. But for me, it just makes sense that even in the K-12 fabric, it should just be a part of it. Mentoring shouldn't be something that young people have to figure out, am I supposed to pay for this? Is this only for white kids? Oh, you want me to get a mentor because I'm in trouble? Oh, no, I don't want a mentor because I'm not in trouble. Like, I don't want people to think something's wrong with me. So there's so many things we have to do in terms of narrative development when it comes to that. But the last thing I'll say about mentorship, teaching, youth development, however you want to think about it, if you work with young people, right, and you want to be really good at this work, it's about vulnerability. And it's about coming into the space. And here's how I define vulnerability. Actually, how I've heard vulnerability defined, and it stuck with me. And it said, when you're willing to give someone absolute control to be able to destroy you, trusting that they won't do it.
Wow.
That's vulnerability. And if you can come into a space with young people and share your story and tell, like, my parents did drugs. Oh yeah, I've gone through X, Y, and Z. And knowing that somebody could take all that information and just make you look horrible, but you trust that they won't do that, that's vulnerability. That's coming into a space with love. So I'll stop there because I know you got other questions.
No, and man, you're already going so deep in terms of, and I might want to pry a little bit more. Why is that the case that maybe mentors or people in general might not want to be vulnerable? What are some of the reasons that maybe you've observed, maybe in your current role or just within your education career, that causes people to like, nah, that's not for me. I don't feel comfortable opening up to my students, right? I don't feel comfortable opening up to these people that, they might, even now with social media, right? Like, it's a scary place where like my information is out there, right? Just like, people want to be boxed in now. So I'm curious, hopefully that question makes sense.
Oh, it makes total sense. And you kind of answered it already. It's scary. Right? Like, I don't know you. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know you. I haven't built a relationship with you. And I don't trust you. Trust is a really hard thing to come by. And sometimes you have to be willing to, as they would kind of say, walk in faith that that everything's going to be okay. But it's hard for adults because what we often forget is that adults have stories too. Adults are triggered as well. And I can tell you as a high school principal, how many times I've seen a teacher come into my office, he or she may be upset because this young person said X, Y, and Z. And I would ask them, help me understand why that got you so upset.
Right.
And then, I may get some really soft answers. And when I say soft, I mean like, it's just, that was disrespectful.
Right.
Help me understand. And as you dig deeper, like you get to hear the story, you get to figure out, like at the end of the day, oh, you woke up and what had happened at home has you thrown off, or this is something your dad used to say to you when you were little, so it's got you thrown off.
Yeah.
Like we all have stories, and
Yeah.
we don't spend enough time in the youth development world really trying to help adults be prepared to go into these spaces and share their stories and be vulnerable and build relationships. Like teach math. That's all I need you to do. I don't need you to
You're right.
I need you to, be friends. And I would tell my teachers all the time. I would tell any youth developer, it's not about friendships, it's about relationships. And those are two totally different things.
Yeah.
So, it's scary.
Yeah.
I mean, even sitting, how many people, you and I, this is the first deep conversation you and I have had.
This is true.
Right?
Right. Yeah.
I could easily get on here and give you pretty
Right. The
soft, as I would
superficial.
say,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, and you're like, well, I don't even know if I want to share this podcast.
Right.
But what I have learned
Yeah.
and hope to continue to share with folks is that hopefully I say something or share something that will give somebody a reason to feel like, oh, okay, I could do this a little bit differently.
Yeah, man, you're touching on great stuff. And yeah, it is scary. And, if 2020 has showed us anything, we're in scary time. I mean, even now we're still in some residue in this new year of 2021. And I recently, one of my mentees, he was asking me to ask somebody else, how do you get motivation, when you're down, right? Or you encounter a failure or a challenge. And to give more context, this guy is a second year student at UC Davis, right? He's so used to, right, on campus, living the life, the college life. Then all of a sudden he's back at home, dealing with his own issues, and he's not feeling the distance learning, but he's still trying to push. I guess what I'm trying to ask, what keeps you going? What's your motivation to keep going? And what would you say to maybe the young people? And, a lot of the people that tune in are young professionals. Like, what's the motivation for you, and what motivation can help other people that are tuning in?
Yeah. So, love, first and foremost. You will hear me say this all the time. I love young people. I love this work. It's not even work. I hate to even say it that way because, right? Like it's not even
a lifestyle.
work. Yeah. It's a lifestyle. I was actually, shared a post today on Mentor California. We, trying to highlight Black folks that are doing it, right now. Chris Chapman, good brother, love that brother, and doing amazing work in Oakland. And somebody else retweeted it. And what I loved about the retweet was they said, this brother Chris lifestyle, this is just who he is, right? And I know because of the relationship I have with that brother that he and I we walk down the same street.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if I wanted to take it even further, like we holding hands, like this is just who we are. Yeah. We love being in the space and lifting up young people.
It's good.
So for me, the motivation is that life's not going to stop and our young people still need to thrive.
Yeah.
So I stay motivated by that. But there's also levels of like getting your mental right. Yeah. If it's meditation, if it's taking a walk, if it's a song, if you got to put on Nas one mic, if that's your joint, like let me listen to this every day, believing that one day we're gonna come out on the other side of this. I am definitely not in a place of saying life will go back to normal. I think this is one of those movement moments where, when, I hate to bring this up, but when 9/11 occurred, it changed the entire way that we fly, and what airports look like. And I think COVID is one of those moments that there are things that are going to occur that are just going to be our new way of life. Yeah. So I think we have to come to that place. But if I had to give a message to, young professionals, just remember why you started, remember why you're in this space. Remember that this too shall pass, as corny as that may sound. This too shall pass.
Yeah.
And where are you going to be on the other side of this? Are you going to be ready? As the old quote says, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready.
Right. Right.
So I wish I could give everybody a daily hug, and maybe that would help out, but I don't know.
Yeah. No, yeah.
I feel you. That's a great question. And, it makes me want to ask you, like, what'd you tell your mentee?
Yeah. So what it comes from like a personal experience, right? Because I have to empathize knowing like, I went to Davis too, but not like this, right? I didn't have to be, going to class on my computer. I'm thinking the context of like my situation. If I was at home, my mom's working, no supervision, right? Like what my daily habits would be in this context. And so first is empathizing, right? And being real of like, I've had my hard days. This is what I've done. Even this past Monday was a rough start to my day, right? And I had to tell my team, this is what I did. I'm texting them as I'm going for a walk. Today was a rough start. Here's what I'm doing. Remember to take care of yourself. It's okay to step back. And that was a huge win for me that I wanted to share with this mentee. Like, it's okay to step back. Like, it's okay to ask those questions. And I think that kind of goes back to that mentorship aspect of like, he felt comfortable to ask me, right? That, right. To say like, hey, how do you get motivation? There's something there. Is it because you need some motivation right now? Is it because something's going on right now that you just need something to bounce back to? So just providing those personal experiences and just being real, as you were saying, that
vulnerability.
Youth know when you're keeping it real. They can, their BS meter is like on point, right? So, right. They can read, smell a mile away. So, yeah.
And I would, just to add to that, it's funny, I was just having this conversation with my daughter yesterday, and I will challenge anybody who says that I may be incorrect, but I know that was a huge part of why young people enjoyed being in my classroom, because of those moments of being able to say, today is not a good day.
Yeah.
And sharing that with them. Right. So I would start off my school year, first 2 weeks. And even when I became an administrator, it was something that I put into effect. The first 2 weeks, like, we're not cracking open a book. We're just going to talk. We're going to learn each other. We're going to do some team building stuff, whatever it looks like. But a part of that conversation would always start out with, there are going to be days that you're not going to like me. And there's going to be days that I'm not going to like you.
Yeah.
But if we talk to each other, right, if we help each other understand where we are, and I would tell them, if you got to come into the classroom and say, Strother, I'm not there today, but don't call on me. Hey, I'm just not in that space. Cool. Also understand that there's going to be days I'm going to come in and tell y'all, I'm not with y'all today.
Yeah.
Please don't take me there.
Yeah.
Let's get through this lesson. Let's do what we got to do. But today's just not a good day for me. Yeah. And what was great about that was that my young people would then say, well, Strother, do we have to do the lesson? Like, what's up? Let's talk.
Yeah.
Like, and it took me as an adult. Yeah. Because at first an adult would want to be like,
of course,
I'm not talking to this 15-year-old kid about what's going on with me. But it got me to a place where I really started building relationships. And a mentee that I have, he's 28 years old now, and doing amazing work. But he said to me, maybe 6-7 months ago, because we have a very close relationship to this day, he was like, Strother, I would ask any mentor, if you're not mentoring someone to the place or idea that they could one day be someone you would want to hang out with or love on or support, why are you doing it?
Yeah.
And for me, on a daily basis, 28, 29, another one, he's a graduate school at Stanford.
Yeah.
Almost 30 years old, but we still have that relationship. And I was his teacher when he was in 6th grade.
Wow.
He's almost 30 years old now. So it's love. I just go back to that.
No, you're absolutely right. And like I said in the beginning, that mentorship for me, changed my trajectory of my life back in high school. You know, I was fortunate to be part of like this program where you get paired up with a mentor, and my mentor was this like 70-year-old Caucasian retired guy. Right. At first, I'm like, there's nothing that could ever. All right, let's see what you got. But he turned out to be the most loving, selfless person that I ever met as a man too. Because context, you know, my dad was around, but in terms of my parents' divorce, right? It's like I never saw a guy like that before. You know, talking about his wife, talking about how he loves his kids, right? And he's there. Like his actions spoke volumes, and it kind of changed the trajectory. Oh, like wow, this these people exist. These people
Right.
exist. Like for that, it just reminded me of like, this is what I want to do. I want to pay it forward, just like he did for me, right?
Love that.
And so you're absolutely right. It's that love part. And kind of going back to what you were saying about, you know, throughout your career and connecting with your students, I'm anticipating there might have been some challenges. I don't know if it came from the students or maybe other adults around you, you know, whether it's, you know, how you're approaching the classroom or coming up with different ideas or maybe even challenging status quo. I'm curious, you know, as you kind of, you know, the different hats that you wore, what were some of the challenges that you maybe a specific challenge that you faced that kind of like opened your eyes a little bit more of like, you know what, I need to take some things to the next level to have a better impact or influence because what I'm seeing right now, this is not working. I have to address them. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So there's a couple different ways I'm gonna approach answering that question. One, I'll talk about just when you're honest with yourself and recognizing that, okay, I'm not getting these young people the way that I need to.
Yeah.
But two, the adult space, which is another interesting space. So the first challenge I'll say is I'm an English teacher who at one point was asked to teach math because we had a shortage of math teachers.
Yeah.
And I owe all those kids an apology because I was not a math teacher. And what I didn't do that I should have done immediately was say, no, I'm not doing that. And hopefully you don't try to go find somebody else that's not a math teacher as well. Like you need to go to the board. And I'm saying this as like a teacher to a principal, is like go to the board. Something like we got to find some money. I don't know what we got to do, but don't put me in the classroom. Like I don't know math. I'm going to mess those kids up. But I did it, you know, and I will say the first time that a young person called me out for doing a problem on the board wrong. And my immediate reaction was to be what probably 80% of teachers are, is very reactive and how dare you. To go home and to be able to like think through that, talk with my wife, like, man, like I did get that problem wrong though, but I get like that.
Yeah.
Man, he called me out. Like that wasn't cool. And my wife kind of, I would never forget this. She was like, but you did get it wrong though, right? And I was like, yeah, it was wrong. She was like, wouldn't you rather he correct you and get it right so that everybody can learn? And it really took me being able, one, to come back and say, I'm sorry to that young person. But then also saying I'm sorry to the class because they had to see me in that light and react that way. But then just to recognize that I don't need to do this by myself. These young people know math better than I do, at least the math I'm teaching them. Like I'm gonna let some of y'all teach. This is what we're going over, like pulling the book. Come here. I know you know this. So get up on that board and teach your class, you know, and let's figure it out. So, you know, it's again, that vulnerability and being able to step back and, you know, get out of your own way to be able to help the young people and recognizing that, man, our young people, they're geniuses. Like we don't always have to be the one in the front teaching the class. So that I would say would be one challenge when it came to young people. The other one, you know, if anybody has ever heard me in an interview or on a podcast before, and not all, but I have shared this story. So my second year as an administrator, I was dean of students. And I was administrator at the high school that I grew up and graduated from. So I went back to my home school for 17 years. I was in that space where, taking care of home as I could, which is Kankakee, Illinois. I didn't stress that. I'm originally from just outside of Chicago. My wife is from Chicago. We've been here just a little over 5 years now. So my second year, I had my mentoring program, had taken about 11 young men to New York, to Stony Brook University for a leadership conference, and come back home on that Monday. And I'm going to try to condense this, but it's a little bit of a long story, but I'll try to condense it. So come back home on Monday, go to school. And one of the young men who was a freshman at the time, he comes up to me, and he and I had built a really very quick, close relationship. And he's like, Strother, why you ain't tell me? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Why you ain't tell me you was getting fired? So me, in my adult spirit of, I'm not going to listen to what you're saying. Go to class.
Right.
I don't even know what you're talking about. And I truly did not know what he was talking about. Right. So I'm like, what? So there's a little bit of a buzz going on this day. And like kids are like, Strother, what? Like, man, we got you. Don't worry. Like, this is crazy. Why are they trying to fire you? And I'm like, what in the world are these kids talking about? Because I really had no clue. By lunchtime, our school was 1,300 strong in terms of young people. By lunchtime, they had over 500 signatures that they did not want me to lose my job. And I'm like, I don't even know I'm losing my job. What are y'all talking about? So lunchtime comes around, and principal calls me in. It's a Black woman. She calls me into the office, and she's like, Marcus, you got to tell me what's going on. And I was like, no, I think you got to tell me what's going on, because the young people think I'm being fired, and I have no clue what they're talking about. She hands me my evaluation, which literally says that I am an excellent administrator, right? So all my scores are on there at the bottom. When you put all the scores together in this rubric, excellent. But Marcus, we are going to go another way, is what she says to me. And I'm going to let you go at the end of the year. Can you sign that evaluation? Thankfully, my father popped into my head. It was like, don't you sign that. Hey, hold on. We got to figure out what's going on, because I had never had any conversation about, the fact that I was doing something that may lead to me losing my job. I now have an excellent evaluation. Why are you letting me go? So I go home, I'm on the phone with my dad. We're talking through it. And he's like, yeah, don't sign that. Like, you need to have a conversation. Well, while all this is happening, I don't know that other stuff is happening, but I start getting phone calls from a number of folks in the community, and they're like, yo, you got to be ready for tomorrow. Like, these kids are not playing. They don't want to lose you. And I'm like, okay, what? It's like, Strother, just get ready. Finally, my principal, my boss, she calls and she says, everybody needs to be at the high school by 6 a.m. Marcus, do you know what's supposed to happen tomorrow? No? But I'll be there. So I get there, and every administrator, every principal from every school, elementary, middle, and then we were the only high school, was at our school, because now at 6 a.m. we find out there's supposed to be a riot, quote unquote. Marcus, what do you know about this? And I'm looking at them and I'm like, I have no clue. Now we get dispersed. Nobody is talking to me except one guy who ended up becoming a mentor for me as an administrator. May he rest in peace. He died a couple of years ago. Greg Merrill was the only guy that would speak to me and was like, hey, brother, don't worry about whatever's supposed to happen today is going to happen, and we just going to get through it. I'm like, all right, I don't know what's supposed to happen though. So, go to my supervision spot. Kids are coming into school, and they're walking past me, and they're saying stuff like this. Strother, don't worry, we got you. Strother, we love you. You good. Strother, I don't even know why you tripping. So I'm like, okay, so now I'm like, what are these kids about to do? So, most high schools, not all, but most high schools have where at the 1 minute bell, when it's time You need to be getting to class.
Right.
We turn on music, right?
Yeah.
Music turns on. You got 1 minute left.
Mm-hmm.
Usually 98% of the kids will go to class. You got your few stragglers, but most of the kids were going to class. Well, on this day, the 1 minute bell goes off. Nobody's going to class.
Mm.
So I'm kind of looking around. I'm like, okay,
Right.
what's about to happen? The bell rings that says now you should be in class, otherwise you're tardy.
Right.
And brother, over 700 young people sit down in the hallway and refuse to go to class until they know I keep my job. They did this for 2 straight weeks. Pretty much shut the school down. Right. And of course, kids aren't coming to school. Right. School's losing money. Mm-hmm. Attendance is getting affected. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, the principal has no real reason why she wants to get rid of me anyway. Yeah. And the kids were like, nah, y'all keep struggling. We good. Right. They had 5. Wow. In 2 weeks, they had 5 emergency school board meetings. Now, here's the crazy thing, and I'll say this very quickly. Second day into it, now I'm starting to get calls, news channels, paper, and I'm like, I have no comment. Right. Y'all want to talk to the young people. Right. It has nothing to do with me. Talk to the young people. They're doing what they feel like they need to do. Second day, though, my appendix burst, and I had to have surgery, which was a blessing in disguise. Wow. I know you may say having your appendix burst is not a blessing. Yeah. It hurt. Don't get me wrong. But I got to go home. I got to be out of the space and not be a distraction. Yeah. In my mind. And I'll never forget the 5th school board meeting was the last one where they denied her request to let me go. Wow. My father went to the school board meeting, so he called me. He was like, hey man, these kids did it. Like, wow. They were showing up. They got to, they spoke. They spoke to news. They spoke to the paper. They did a march. Wow. They got a church to put up $1 million of insurance so that they could do a march. And those young people are still very close and dear to my heart. One, her and I were just talking 2 weeks ago. And she was like, Strother, I can't wait for you to come back to Illinois so you can meet my son. Like, wow. I just want him to know you. I want him to know your story. And I said, you know what? I'm going to meet him and we're going to tell him our story. Yeah. Because it was this young lady and 4 other young men who they were the 5 that really organized this whole sit out and got over 700 young people involved. And 2 weeks later, I kept my job and the principal got demoted and eventually got fired. And I moved up and stayed at that high school for another 7 years before I finally moved here to Sacramento. Wow. What a story, man. What a story. Thank you. Yeah, it is. It will forever be that story for me. That was, and it just spoke volumes in so many different ways in terms of, one, those young people, I'll never forget, one young person was interviewed and they said, why are you doing this? Right. And the young person said, listen, we know Strother loves us. Mm-hmm. And if they are willing to get rid of the one person that we know loves us, then we know that they are not going to do right by us after he's gone. Wow. So he can't go nowhere. Yeah. And that moment, that young man, to this day, what he said, what I got to read him say, has been my North Star. Wow. And will forever be my North Star. At the end of the day, if you want to do this work, the first thing you have to do is love young people. Yeah. It just is. And if you don't, I guess cool. Mm-hmm. Just go do something else. Yeah. Just go do something else. Yeah. But youth voice, and I taught young people, about the civil rights movement and how young people were the ones making the change and what all of that looked like. So they knew. They knew what they needed to do. It was like, I tell young people all the time, and this is just real. If you have the right culture, you can tell them this and be honest. Like, listen, it's 1,200 of y'all and 120 of us. Mm-hmm. At any moment, y'all could take over this school if you wanted to.
True.
What are we going to do? Right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you create a culture, which
Yeah.
we did at Kankakee, and as I went on, to become principal and in
Mm-hmm.
building this culture, when you do that, like young people, they don't want to take over. They want to be there because they know it's a
Yeah.
safe space. They know it's a place where they're loved. They
Yeah.
know it's a place that they can go and get what they need to be able to be in a culture of thriving. And I mean, when I left and came to Sacramento,
Yeah.
I had 122 staff, 88 of them were classroom teachers,
Mm-hmm.
33 of them left.
Wow.
Like if you're not going to be here, then we're not going to be here.
Wow.
Now, I say that saying, I wish I would have created a culture that said to them,
Mm-hmm.
it will remain even though
Mm-hmm.
I'm gone.
Yeah.
And that was a learning lesson, thinking about a challenge. Like,
Yeah.
how do you create something that's sustainable past you
Man, that's
as a
so
leader?
good.
Right. That was the lesson I learned coming to Sacramento, was like, God dang it, I didn't create a culture that was sustainable past me. So I need to make sure I do that from here on out, which I think we've done with youth development at Sac City, and hope to be able to do as we build out Mentor California.
Man. And yeah, fast forward now, right? Mentor California, in terms of your role as a leader, as the CEO and president, what is it's funny, you guys just recently released, I think, like the strategy and the mission and right. So I'm curious, man, just to hear from you, like, what is the message that you are trying to do with Mentor California? I know you have the national as well. What is the mission of Mentor California? What are you guys hoping to do and launch this year and for the future?
Yeah, great question. So, as you've seen, our mission is to increase the quality and quantity of mentoring programs throughout the state of California.
Yeah.
We are not here to be a direct service program, right? We are not here to bring young people in and do the mentoring ourselves.
Yeah.
Our work is really to be able to support the Improve Your Tomorrows, to support the men's and women's leadership academies, the Aging Ups, the Youth Mentoring Action Network, and LA Team Mentoring. Our work is to be able to provide the necessary resources for mentoring programs to grow and thrive in a way that create a sustainable culture for our state of California, so that the 6 million young people that we have in this state can one day say they all have a mentor.
Yeah.
And if that means, a couple different things, if that means we have to really focus on mentor recruitment and how do we get more adults into the space, how do we create more peer-to-peer opportunities or group mentoring, then we'll do that. If that means we have to get into the state capitol and be able to help our governor understand there needs to be federal dollars that are coming, there needs to be state dollars that are coming that will help programs be able to continue to do this work. If that means we have to get into the K-12 space or the UC space and say, listen, mentoring should be just a natural fabric of your school. It shouldn't be, I have to go find a community-based organization and see if I can create an MOU. No, it's, hey, Elk Grove, here's Improve Your Tomorrow. They have capacity to, service 12 of your schools, make it happen, right? And then we see what we got to do for someone else. Or if you just want to use Improve Your Tomorrow as your Elk Grove Unified School District mentoring resource, all right, cool. School districts have the money to do it. The state is giving the money to be able to support it. IYT can grow as it needs to grow, or any other mentoring program. Another big piece of it is, how do we convene? How do we bring, one, regions together, but how do we bring the state together? Because there are programs across this state that are doing really, really great, robust mentoring work. There are some who are still trying to figure it out, and we can learn from each other. We can support each other. So how do we do that in a way where we create this statewide coalition that allows us to be able to, one, define what mentoring really can look like on many different levels, because young people are still confused. Adults are still confused. I'm sure, you and other folks at IYT get like, well, help me understand, like, what really does mentoring do? And it's like, really, we still have to answer that question. But so we want to be able to do that word convene. So, hopefully we will have our own statewide summit, in the next, I would say 3 to 5 years, where California folks can come together, because I believe, that here in California, we could really be leading the nation, in this work and helping people understand what it could look like. And I would say that, the last part of a lot of what we intend to do with Mentor California is, again, the training and support and resources. You know, through OJJDP, we're able to do a lot of that stuff where it's at no cost to mentoring programs.
Awesome.
As long as they're signed up underneath our mentoring connector, which we have 250 plus right now that are signed up underneath our mentoring connector, they can request TA from us. We can come in and, you know, if it's how do I do matching and closing to how do I mentor LGBTQ youth, any of that we can do. And from that, we can build out some really great case studies and research that will allow folks to be able to build out, you know, in the work. And like, how do we lift up new stuff like the 1300 campaign to say look what's happening here. We have two colleges who are saying we're going to get young men of color in the school, we're going to get them access. And how do we do that across the state? So, because what's unfortunate is like kids shouldn't have to live in Sacramento to get that type of support, because IYT, Michael Lynch, Marcus Strother, Sierra Health, MBK, Ray Green, because they happen to be in Sacramento, kids in Sacramento get to thrive. No, like everybody should be able to thrive. So how do we build it, you know, build it out here, but then how do we take it across the state?
That's so good. How can people, you know, that want to get more information or even get involved to maybe even be a mentor, just understand up to date, what is Mentor California? How can they do that?
Yeah, so mentorcaliforniayouth.org is our website. If you go on there and sign up in our mentoring connector as a program, like I stated earlier, but we have become a mentor, right? So we have a tab to become a mentor. And what happens is that, you know, if you live here in Sacramento, you're interested in becoming a mentor, you sign up to become a mentor and you say, I'm willing to work within 25 miles of where I live.
Yeah.
What happens is all the programs that are signed up, like Improve Your Tomorrow or an Aging Up or Big Brothers Big Sisters Greater Sacramento, will pop up for them. So once they put in all their information, it will pop up and say, these 12 programs are within 25 miles of you. Now, click on one of these programs and connect with them to become a mentor. If they don't want to do it that way, though, they can just reach out to us through the website. We have, you know, of course, the contact us button, you know, and send us an email and say, hey, I'm interested. Do you know programs that would be interested in having me become a mentor? And then we can make the connection that way.
Awesome.
So we have that, but we'll also lift up is for families who may be looking for a mentor, which this happens often. They may not know about an Improve Your Tomorrow. So go to our website, go to Find a Mentor, which is another tab. You say the same thing. I'm willing to drive within 25 miles of where I live to get my young person a mentor. The 12 programs will pop up that show up within that 25 miles. And you can say, oh, Improve Your Tomorrow. They focus on young Black and brown boys. That's who I need. Let me connect with them.
Gotcha.
So there's a few different ways that folks can get connected. And then, of course, we're continuing to build partnerships. The Sacramento Kings, you know, who you can go on the kings.com website, kings.com/mentor. You can sign up to become a mentor there. The Kings staff is now becoming mentors. We have 20 folks from the Kings who have signed up to be mentors, which is absolutely amazing. The Clippers are in the same space. We're finishing up the website now. Hopefully within the next, I would say, month, we'll have that going with the Clippers. And we'll continue to build out, you know, with partners and however we can continue to recruit mentors. And there's, like I said, there's tons of great programs. We have 250 plus programs in California that we know of, right? There's, I'm sure, more, but that we know of that are doing amazing work.
Man, that's amazing. Marcus, before we land this plane, I want you to help me complete this statement, which I've asked my guests to complete. And the statement is this: every leader needs this. Knowing what you know now, you know, having gone through your experience, whether it's, you know, your professional, your personal work, your family, knowing what you know now, every leader needs what?
Can I have more than one answer, or it has to be just one?
Hey, go for it, man. You get you get multiple options.
You know, I'll say it this way. Every leader, look at me. I can't even talk. You got me confused.
You're an English teacher, right?
Right? Like, so I tell people all the time, I should stop sharing that information.
Right.
God, I did it again. Every leader, let's do it. You ready?
Yeah, we got it.
Stop messing me up.
All right, you got it, Marcus.
All right. Every leader needs love. Every leader needs transparency. Every leader needs to follow. And every leader needs to show up.
Wow.
I'll leave it at that.
And we'll leave it at that. Marcus, thank you so much for your time. I respect and value the work that you're doing with Mentor Club for, and even beyond that, man, just so grateful to have you on here. You guys heard it here, Lead Up Leadership Podcast with brother Marcus Strother. See you guys on the next one. Peace.
Appreciate you.
Yeah.